Hi everybody, this is Nine with the B-side, and I'm here with Allison Kinnaird in her home studio church, converted church, and also a music studio. Allison, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome to come.
Please tell us why the glass is your preferred medium, and explain a little bit what you do with it.
Well, I'm not really sure why glass is my preferred medium. I mean, I think everybody is drawn to one medium or another. And I happen to have sort of fallen into glass by accident because I was turned down for art college. I've never been to art college. And I just happened to meet a glass engraver who saw some drawings that I'd been doing and said, you know, those would work well in glass. You must come and work with me for the summer. So I did and got totally hooked. And that was 50 years ago now, so I've had a lot of practice since then.
Good.
And discovered that, you know, glass is a great medium. I mean, just you can do so much with it technically, but you can say a lot in it as well, because it's just got a very special character.
So explain to us, this isn't like a blown glass art, right? This is a very specific way of achieving these. Are they etchings, would you call them, or what?
Well, if you're being technical, no, you wouldn't call them etchings because etching is done with acid.
Okay.
And I'm a wheel engraver, and it's a very ancient technique. You do it with a small lathe that turns spindles with wheels on the end, either copper or diamond wheels, and each wheel makes a different cut, and you learn how to blend these together into the imagery. And it gives this wonderful three-dimensional sort of sculptured effect that you don't get with any of the other techniques. So I think it's very special, although it's looked on as a dying art because it's too slow for normal commercial viability these days. So it's been kept alive by the artist engraver in their own studio because we can take time over things, whereas the commercial companies want to zap things on pretty quickly these days.
Sure. It does really create a sense of that, even with the smaller pieces, that you're standing in the art almost, like it's presenting itself to you rather than something that you're seeing from afar, like a painting that has just a two-dimension. It really feels like you become absorbed with the pieces.
Well, you see, glass has got this quality of being a window or a door or a mirror. So all these things kind of draw you in or shut you out, depending on how you want to look at it. So you can use that quality in the subjects that you choose to work with. I usually work with the human figure, and I think that's been my theme throughout my career, really. Although I do, you know, commissions and I do nature subjects from time to time, but really it's the human condition that fascinates me.
Yeah, the human condition, the human story, and of all ethnicities and backgrounds and levels of being, I guess you could say too. What is it about telling the social stories that fascinates you personally?
Well, I think everybody is fascinated by other people and how they manage to cope with just the day-to-day life. Do you know, I mean, nobody has the ideal life. Everybody has ups and downs and crises and disappointments and moments of joy, and so it's nice to kind of work with those and see if you can say something about them and try to understand why your own life is going up or down at the time, and just what everybody's hopes and fears are as well.
What do you do to research your stories? Because a lot of these things that I see is contemporary street art. It's people that are much younger than either you or I. What do you do to research those lives?
I kind of people watch. You know, a lot of my drawing is done, and I do a lot of drawing. I do a lot of drawing on when I'm traveling. For instance, on the subways of New York and in the streets of New York, I sit in a cafe or a train station or on the subway, and I sketch people. because
it's one of my favorite things as a filmmaker too, to just do the
really,
sitting and watching. Yeah,
really, people are fascinating, and a place like New York, for instance, is a great melting pot. So the people you see passing by are sometimes quite extraordinary, but it's just a huge mixture of people, and you do wonder what their stories are, and you kind of make it up about them, and you kind of fantasize and wonder where they're going and who they're seeing and whether they look happy or sad and what their relationships are. So that kind of comes into what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm going to give a little shout out to my film class. This is what I'm talking to you guys about when I say the corner story. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So I tell them, sit on the corner and watch somebody walking by, and before they come around that corner, decide everything about their life. Look at their shoes, their pants, their hat, their face, their facial expressions, any scars, and what makes up their entire life as they walk by, and you have that much time to write it down.
And that, everybody can do that, no matter where you are. Big cities are good for that, but you can watch people wherever you are. Mind you, the other side of what I do is very old imagery, because when I was turned down for art college, I went to university and did Celtic studies and archaeology. And of course in Scotland you're surrounded by very old things and very old imagery, and although I thought my degree, it was interesting, it was fascinating, but not terribly useful, but actually it comes into my work a lot, and I find that the motifs and the imagery and the thinking really do affect what I do. So for instance, the piece over here with the graffiti in it, the graffiti motifs are actually taken from the Neolithic tombs of Scotland and Ireland. I've just treated them as graffiti.
As street art.
Street art, you give them that style and they look totally contemporary. But actually these are thousands of years old, and they've got a significance that we probably aren't aware of, but they do get through to people still,
Right.
It's great to be able to use those things, because it gives you a whole vocabulary that has got more resonance.
Yeah, street art is I have something to say, is the same as these markings was. I have something to say and I want it to be remembered.
People like to leave their mark. That actually comes into my work quite a lot, because I'm leaving my mark on the glass.
Yeah.
And so I find that comes in quite often.
So tell us a little bit about placement of your art and where it's being shown in your national galleries and all over the US as well. And
well, yes, I've been lucky to be asked to commissioned to do work for some of the national places, like the Scottish National Portrait Gallery. I have 13 portraits in there because I was asked to do the donor window, which thanked a lot of very generous donors for their contribution to the refurbishment of the gallery. I was commissioned to do a piece for the Royal Museums of Scotland, which is in Edinburgh in the main museum there. And the Scottish Parliament bought a large piece of mine as well, which is in their permanent collection, on show all the time in the Parliament. But yes, I've been done work abroad as well. And in the United States, for instance, the Murano Hotel in Tacoma, which is a wonderful hotel. The northwest of the United States is sort of a glass centre.
yeah, it's a big hub.
It is a big hub there. So I was very flattered to be asked to do a large piece for that hotel, which is basically a live-in glass museum. They invited a number of distinguished glass artists to do special pieces for them, and so it's included in that.
Neat. That's really cool. What would be the most important thing for us to know about the creation of art for you? For example, the piece here that I'm looking at with the body and all the hands raised up, or the image of the child being held, the person maybe underwater.
Well, that's a series of doorways, and it's called Threshold. The group is called Threshold, and doorways are about transition, about moving forward, moving back, looking forward and looking back, and they're about different stages of life, really. We're all coming and going in different ways. So I think what I like to show people is that you can take a very old technique and not be bound by technique. You get to a certain stage of ease with it, and it's your ideas that you can put forward. And the ideas, if you think, fairly deeply about it, actually seem to get through to other people. It's wonderful when people connect with your work. They stand there and they see something in it, perhaps that you didn't even see yourself. Quite exciting, when somebody says, and you think, actually, that's probably true. I didn't know that was in me, but when I did it. But art is about that. It's not just about the surface. There should be something that makes you want to stand in front of it and look and think a bit deeper.
Something I really enjoy as a musician, I do a little bit of sculpting, but nothing that I show around. But as a musician, sometimes I'll have someone come to me and say, I really related to this because of, and it's a completely different story than I was telling, but they received a whole story out of it. Do you have that happen with your glass too?
Yes, I do, definitely. But I think, in the first place, people just react on a sort of visceral level, in the same way that they do with music. You just, something gets through to you, something touches people. And, when you're an artist, you put your work out there and you don't know how people are going to respond. And you just hope, and you're delighted when people seem to be touched or moved or delighted by it.
Well, so if you're able to, as long as it's not like a state secret or anything, what are you working on now, and what could we look forward to seeing from you?
Well, I've just finished these large panels. They were just finished in time for the exhibition. So to be honest, I've taken a couple of days off, but I've been setting up the exhibition, which is also hard work, as you probably know. And I'm going to be working on a commission for a church down in Kent. I've done a big window and doors for it, and I'm going to just start on the third window, smaller window. So that's my next project.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. I really appreciate it. It was such a pleasure to meet you.
It was really nice to meet you too, Nye.